NXT. I thought they had a good cold open, which they're going to be difficult to beat on the production edge. It was the voiceover, the editing. Even though All Elite's spending some money and Keith Mitchell, those guys, they do a good job. You know, this is a fucking you're fighting a network television facility when you're fighting the WWF. Okay, will this be controversial? And bearing in mind that I've known Jim Ross for 35 years, he's an excellent friend of mine. Mauro Ranallo was the best announcer of the night. JR has the voice and JR has the gravitas, and when you hear JR, you have the memories, and he knows how to do television, and he knows how to make things sound big, and he knows when try not to get any on him. But, once again, Mauro just has that energy, and he knows everything, and he says everything, and he's a whirlwind. I thought he was the better announcer of the night, and I thought Nigel was better than either Tony or Excalibur.
I've said it before, Nigel's excellent, and Mauro has been the best commentator in wrestling for several years. I mean, at least since his New Japan run. Great, they're a great team, and Beth Phoenix I thought did really good too.
Yeah, and Beth is better than Excalibur, because at least she doesn't look stupid. So the first match being the NXT title match, and they did the commercial-free thing because they're going to keep people in the first half hour and watching, a match they want to see to try to keep them away from AEW. We know that. We talked about the thoughts. It's a smaller arena. It looks good, except like you said, it seemed darker, and they would darken it on purpose with the effects and everything.
And if you went back and forth, like I said, if you were flipping channels, if you're going back and forth, and for me, it was channel 551 and 552, so I could just go up and down.
Oh my God.
That's when the difference in the two shows really stood out. And like I said earlier, if you started with NXT and just watched it all the way through, you got one experience. But if you went back and forth, it was like the tale of two shows.
Yeah. But anyway, I have no problem with a smaller building. It's the OVW Davis Arena concept. And I have no problem with that. And if they keep giving them good shows, they'll keep the people. This was the first full Matt Riddle match that I have seen. I've heard about him. We haven't sought it out, right? And he hadn't been on, as I recall, any of the other NXT shows that we have reviewed, was he?
I don't believe you've ever reviewed one of his matches from NXT, no.
Well, okay. This was the match of the night of both shows to me.
Easily.
This was the best modern style wrestling, incredible stuff that looked good and still made sense. They had a pace that was quick, but they still sold shit. You can tell that these guys have had high-level training. They didn't do any indie bullshit. Great strikes, great wrestling. They had nice false finishes, athletic, the whole, and everybody knows I'm an Adam Cole fan, but Matt Riddle, carried it too here. And finally, Adam Cole wins. I am so happy for him that he has always worked so hard and been so serious about this. And he's in this position now. So this was the match of the night. And then here comes fucking Finn Balor. What did we say last week? If NXT even starts losing the ratings race, they can just say, guess who's going to be here next week? John Cena, The Rock. They can do anything they fucking want, right? So it's going to be interesting. See how many people they bring over. But yeah, that was the match of the night.
On the same wavelength as Adam Page, I don't get Finn Balor at all, or Prince Devitt, whatever he was. I mean, I've seen him in some good matches, especially when it was a big guy against him, but he's another guy I just don't get the wild acclaim for.
Well, and I was a fan when he was Prince Devitt. I wanted to bring him to Ring of Honor, but obviously we were going to get Sinclair to spring for fucking international plane tickets and paperwork. However,
really,
he's perfect for this audience. I see what you mean, but this audience wants all the young guys that are going to do the all the shit that they want them to see him do, right? They don't want the fucking, the Trevor Murdoch, not this audience. So I can see why that he would be, and also he's somebody, let's face it, that they can move off the main roster and not hurt themselves.
Yeah.
But he might even be more important to this group than to the main roster. They did the package on Shayna Baszler and Candice LeRae, more on that later. The Velveteen Dream. Remember, I liked the match and I was kind of okay with the gimmick. It was a guilty pleasure.
Yeah.
I liked his match better than this.
No, this was awful, I thought.
You couldn't almost see anybody. Fog, blue lights, a couch with girls, and stagey, Vegas-y, couldn't work up hatred for it necessarily, but what the fuck? It just,
I agree.
Well, there you go.
And by the way, on the topic of the Adam Cole Matt Riddle match, that's 2 matches within a month, 6 weeks. Whenever we saw the Walter match, 2 NXT matches that I've seen recently that were phenomenal. 2 of the best matches I've seen in a while. So
and completely different.
Completely different, yeah.
Which is going to be important, as we'll talk about in a minute. The Lio Rush package against Drew Gulak. We know Lio Rush apparently is mentally incompetent because he's always getting heat on himself. He can talk his ass off. He's a fucking midget, and he should be a manager. We ran through that a while back. But on the other hand, he has personality and shit, whereas Drew Gulak, I thought he kind of stone-faced and monotonistic. Anyway, that was just a package. So how do you pronounce Shirai's Io?
Io, yes.
Io Shirai and Mia Yim.
Yes.
Okay. I know Mia Yim. She looks good in that gimmick she comes out with. I like her. I've seen a lot of fucking girl wrestling lately, and this was long, and I fast-forwarded. And then there was Nash and Hall at ringside. What do you think? So did you see this one, or did you go back to the fucking family?
I watched it. I had it on, but that was kind of one of those matches where I got distracted. I ended up on my computer. I ended up looking at tweets, different things. So had it on in the background, nothing personally against it, but it didn't capture me. Especially, I mean, look, the other tough thing is if you start to show off at one of the best matches I've seen all year, it's hard to it's going to take a little while to get me back into the show at that level.
Yeah, yeah. And also, and it's not going to be popular, but let's face it, folks, you shouldn't have, you don't need to have, and nobody wants to see as many women's matches as men's. It doesn't have to be equal. Because still, right?
Yeah.
Let's fucking let's keep some perspective here. Nash and Hall were at ringside, poisoning a new generation of minds. The Tegan Knox package. This was my favorite package. And it was one of the girls. But it was real. She's hurt. She was crying. They talk about it. They showed carrying her out. The will to come back and rehab the knee, the whole 9 yards. I love shit like that. So it was a great injury package. They should do that when the guys get hurt. They should do some shit like that.
Yeah, great package. It was really something I never saw the match where she got hurt, but when they show her on the mat and she's kind of doing the X herself, but
yeah,
she's in so much pain she can barely do it. That was like, wow. I mean, that was a great package. Great package.
And it gets people's emotion. Then they can tell, even if they know wrestling's a work, that, okay, she was really fucked up. That poor girl. It gets sympathy, whatever. Yeah. Johnny Gargano versus Shane Thorn. Mauro Ranallo cracks me up, and especially he's loyal to the soil. He's NXT won the announcer battle. And I can't believe I'm saying that. Their girl referee is not as good as Girl Hebner. Here's where we started going south.
But nobody is, to be fair.
Well, okay. Here's where we started going south, because that 30 minutes they got commercial free at the beginning, they're making it up at the end.
That's right.
And they go to break in this match, and they've got the picture-in-picture, but it's so small, and the guys are so small. I fast-forwarded through the fucking break. What this was a wrestling school training match at a high level. They did moves, they rolled around, they did mat wrestling. There was no facials, there was no emotion, there was a concentration on the performance. It was 2 guys that I've never heard talk. Again, don't care about. 2 small guys that are good athletes, I don't care. It was kids wrestling, high-level indie stuff that would be like their ultimate tryout match that they think would try to get them a job. They did too much, which left less for the stars to do, because neither one of these guys is going to sell you any tickets in the immediate future. I know Johnny Gargano is popular with that crowd. We've mentioned his monotone of face and lack of any kind of fucking emotion before. I would have loved all they did everything they could do back and forth to each other. Nobody healed. They took one bump after another, dozens of head kicks, the same old shit. I would have loved to see a body slam, a backdrop, a hip toss, just a regular vertical suplex. How about a fucking hold for more than 7 seconds? This was high level indie shit. What do you think?
It was an okay match. It didn't really stand out. It didn't do much for me. I think Gargano has really good big matches, although, again, those, and there's going to be people who hate me saying this. To me, sometimes those go a little long and have way too many false finishes and then get have some hardcore moments in the middle of it and then get back to the match. He's good, but, this is just a match. I don't know if this was supposed to mean more. I guess, they're trying to do something with Shane Thorn. He looked all right, but didn't really stand out much to me.
A little pitchy for me, dog. All right, the women's title. Candice LeRae versus Shayna Baszler. I'm conflicted. As I've said, I've seen a lot of girl wrestling lately, and here comes more girl wrestling. Some of it's been good, some of it's been bad. I don't care about Candice LeRae because of her previous associations, as we have mentioned. She teamed up with the Dick guy. She did spots in bars. I don't know really what she's done because I've never watched her on purpose, but I know if I say anything good about her, she does have a cute smile. But if I say anything good about her, somebody's going to send the fucking tape of her sticking her thumb up somebody's ass or fucking an invisible something or whatever the fuck. So I'm not going to ever praise her because of the people that she used to hang around with.
But to be fair, though, and unfortunately I'm realizing this, the list of people who aren't on videos like that is getting smaller by the day. Even guys from the 90s or guys who are still around from a previous era. More and more guys are doing it to the point where it becomes harder to just dismiss everyone just because everyone is doing it. I'm not saying I agree with that, but
yeah. Well, this one was in on the ground floor. But here's the thing. I wanted to see Shayna Baszler because she's real and she's legitimate, and I haven't seen her, in a regular full-length match yet. So I was trying to watch, right? But then they start, and then they go into a long break and only part of the break was picture-in-picture. Sometimes it would be, sometimes it wouldn't be. I see enough to see that Shayna Baszler is a good heel. She's mean and aggressive. I wrote down a question. Why don't any of the heels pull hair and rake eyes anymore? Choke behind the referee's back. That'd be nice. But then they came back in the second segment, and Shayna Baszler hits this girl with a side salto off the second rope as a break spot. So already, this MMA specialist that's fought at a high level in mixed martial arts has gone through 2 segments with this little blonde girl that you could tell legitimately couldn't fight her way out of a paper bag. Then they go to another picture-in-picture break. This could have been a decent match in 6 minutes. But they went 3 fucking different segments with broken up with 2 breaks. Finally, Shayna Baszler won, and it was way too fucking long. Now the girls have to go forever. Now, with your women's division, as I said, I'm sorry, this is just facts. There shouldn't be equal number of women's matches as there are men's because the men are still your steak and the women are your potato. With the women's division, pick a few stars and smash them over the other girls because there are also not as many convincing, believable athletic workers in the women's division anywhere as there are the men's because there's more men to begin with. But pick a few stars and on TV, smash them over the other girls and have the long classics with the top girls against each other on pay-per-view. It is not doing you any good having middle card ladies matches or middle card ladies in a match going 15 minutes. A little bit of a package of Walter and Imperium. At this point, I wrote down, can we please have a live or VTR just promo, not a package? Can any of these guys talk for a minute straight? The Velveteen Dream was the only promo, and that was pretty fucking sad. Yeah. Pete Dunne wrestles Danny Birch. I've currently realized now that I can't tell who they're pushing because all the matches are so competitive, you can't tell who the fucking stars are. They go to another break with picture-in-picture.
Pete Dunne kind of looks like Becky Lynch without a shave.
I like Pete Dunne and the bruiserweight thing or whatever, but here's my problem now. Here's what I'm starting to realize. In the AEW NXT contrast, at least AEW, the matches were mostly different, or where they weren't, we called them out. But the NXT matches are all looking similar. And they're Dunn and Birch, they're doing it good. But I was tired of the nonstop, constant bumping off of some kind of shit over and over, where there's not at least a decent lengthy set of heat and then a big babyface comeback. It's just back and forth over and over. Finally, Pete Dunne wins. They have a blackout. Then here comes Damian Priest and lays out Pete Dunne. And still doesn't say anything. And if I'm a new viewer, I don't know why that happened. What do you think of these guys? Or can you even remember the difference now?
I mean, I think Pete Dunne's all right. Obviously, I've seen a bunch of him. I hadn't seen the guy who did the run-in or the guy that Pete Dunne wrestled. I don't think I've seen before. But, you know, this is the like you said, the difference between the two shows. AEW, it felt like more, I didn't want to miss anything. I didn't know who was going to come in. I didn't know who was going to run in. It was bright. It was fun to watch. There were matches on the NXT show I just didn't care about at all. I was completely tuned out about it. And unfortunately, this was one of them.
I'll tell you, I thought the same thing, but the opposite in some cases. And I'll tell you why. I thought that the better show overall was All Elite Wrestling, but I thought that NXT had the two high points.
Yeah.
And we're coming up on it. Street Profits and Fish and O'Reilly. To quote Charles Dickens, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. They came as Street Profits, the entrance Whale, although they called him Wally. I thought that was the one Court Bauer kept promoting, Whale Mania, right? Who's Whale? But he's Wally. Wally wrapped Street Profits to the ring. I fucking hated it. It was fucking horrible. It's fucking rap. I don't know why the red plastic cups are a deal. I despised all of this, right?
Rap's okay, but that did kind of suck.
And what's the red plastic cup got to do with anything?
Oh, well, you see, it's popular with the kids. They put codeine in those cups, and then they drink it and they get really high and they have seizures.
Okay, so we're glorifying children abusing over-the-counter drugs so that when I get fucking sick and have a goddamn cold, I've got to goddamn have an axe to get into the fucking case that contains the cold medicine.
Scissor, I believe they call it.
All right. Here comes O'Reilly and Fish. I love both these guys, especially Kyle O'Reilly, and Kyle has grown up. In Ring of Honor, we always knew he had it, right? But he was so painfully thin, red-headed, freckled, fishy white. You know, he was a kid. But now he's grown up, and he matches his work now. His work was always great. He just looked too young. I made this note. Street Profits did a backslap tag, so I'm pissed already. Then later on, fucking Fish and O'Reilly did the same thing. I got pissed at them too. But anyway, they started the match. Then they did another picture-in-picture break. Then they come back. I like that O'Reilly works a different style than everybody else. He's got the MMA influence, but that cartwheel butterfly suplex thing that he does, and he just works differently, and it works for him.
That's one of the reasons I like Matt Riddle so much earlier in the show. He works different than everyone else.
Yes. And he's an MMA influence also, but it's completely different. So they weren't just trained by the same people and do the same thing. Anyway, the Street Profits are a decent babyface team. I think O'Reilly and Fish are a really good heel team. They had nice teamwork and tags, except for the backslap tag. And Kyle, I'm disappointed in you because I think we've had that fucking seminar. Fish is aggressive and mean looking. They did do one awkward spot where the two heels kept having to beat fucking Montez Ford up right in the middle of the ring and burying Dawkins on the apron because I think they were trying to remind Ford what was next because they were calling it. Then they do another break. So they've had match break. And I wrote, I've about given up on this fucking match because of the breaks. You couldn't follow it. And then they announce at 10 p.m., we will continue till the match is over, right? Which would have been great, except that on my DVR, when I set the recording, it said it was going to go to 10:15. Yeah. So, but this is the other half of the dueling high points. If it had just been this segment of this match, this was my second favorite match of the night behind Riddle and Cole. If it had just been this segment.
And if I could just interrupt you real quick, this is when I originally tuned in. I watched the show later on DVR, but after All Elite ended, I was actually in the mood to watch more wrestling at that moment, and luckily I had that overrun, so I got to see the end of the match and then watch the whole thing after the fact.
Okay, so when you had just seen this was a hell of a match till you saw the first half, right?
It was fantastic. Like you said, the breaks, it killed a lot of matches. Yeah, but it really hurt this match. Yeah.
Plus, they did too much shit. And it was one of those deals where, remember when Michael Elgin and Davey Richards had a match WrestleMania weekend 2012 in Fort Lauderdale where people said it was a 5-star match and Michael Elgin should be the next champion?
Yeah.
Everybody was raving about it, right? And I, at the time, was dealing with all of our technical issues, so I heard the people live going ballistic and watched the last bit of it, but I hadn't been able to see the whole thing. When I went back and watched it, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. That was one of these matches that was either not very good at all or just pedestrian at best until something happened at about the halfway mark that not only woke the crowd up, but woke the wrestlers up. Which in that case with Elgin and Davey Richards was they tried to do some kind of belly-to-belly suplex off the top rope, and both of them almost fell right on top of their fucking heads and broke their necks, right? And the people went whoosh, and the guys got up, and sometimes when something like that happens, you get up and start swinging harder because you're like, I'm okay. And that turned into a classic. The overall match was not even really good, but the last half of it was fucking incredible. This was the same thing. Fish takes a big backdrop over to the top to the floor. They do nice double team shit. They worked on Montez Ford, slowed it down after they blocked the hot tag by jerking Dawkins off the apron, the old heel tactic. Then they got an actual set of heel tag team heat on Montez Ford. Then they did a nice hot tag. And had a big comeback by Dawkins or Dawson or Dawkins.
I'm not sure. The big guy. You're talking about the big guy.
The big guy.
He was good. I liked him.
Yeah. The big comeback, it was a little choreographed. They got in a couple of positions where they had to, it was a little, but still it had passion and emotion.
Yeah.
And then they went into an extended finish sequence that I wrote down. This was nice and Eddie Graham-ish. They had twists. It was a convoluted finish. Guys were up and back and forth, and they did a good job on it, and they nailed it. And the false finishes had them. So that was that segment, not even the entire match, but just that last segment was the best tag team stuff that I've seen in ages anywhere. The previous segments were all broken up, but that last bit that they did was fucking excellent. It was revival worthy. I thought.
I have to tell you, too, I love this faction of Fish, O'Reilly, Roddy Strong, and Adam Cole. They're great together.
Well, and they should have called them Ring of Honor. Boy, I wonder what talented genius was able to recognize that all four of those guys were great and push them as big. But anyway, so that was good. And then Adam Cole comes out to luxuriate and is confronted by Tommaso Ciampa. And Tommaso has a great look, the beard, the bald head. He was going so good as a heel. And he's had so many injuries. It's a shame because he had injuries before he even got to Ring of Honor back in 2011 or whatever. Had a serious knee, I think, an ACL reattachment. And he's had another one, I think. And he's had the neck thing. But you can look at it like it's a shame he's had so many injuries, because he would, and he knows this, unfortunately, he would be so much farther along if he hadn't had. But also, this fucking freak keeps recovering. And the rehab he does is intense. And the fucking determination that he's got. He has come back from some serious fucking injuries and continues to do freaky shit. And he's freaky strong. And it just, so I hate that he's been hurt so much, but goddamn, I've never seen anybody come back regularly so quick and so strong and so in shape from serious shit like this. So you got to give him that. But anyway, that last segment, All Elite Wrestling was a better show, and the start and finish of NXT was the best thing of the night. That's what we've got. So we said we wanted them to make it a dogfight, and they're trying. There was good and bad, and they attempted as best they could to keep our attention, I guess.
For me, the guy I enjoyed the most the whole night, the MVP, was Adam Cole for both shows.
Yeah, I can see that.
I was going to ask you who you would pick for both shows. You said Cody for AEW before, but if you were going to look at both shows and say, for the overall night, who was the MVP, who would you pick?
Yeah, I think, well, also because Adam had that nice promo. Did we even skip over that in the notes where they talked and we finally got a promo? He talked right after I was saying, did we get any promos? He did an excellent job with that, firing up the Undisputed Era. He had a great match and did a great deal at the end. So, yeah, he may have been... It'd be Cole or Cody. For Cole for the NXT, Cody for All Elite, and one of the two of them for the night, in my opinion.
AEW, you said you picked for the better overall show for the night.
AEW start to finish was the better overall show because NXT, the matches started just, especially toward the end when they were being broken up with the breaks, but also high speed bumping back and forth. You know, the reason why I liked Cole and Riddle was because they did all the big bumps, but they actually sold and registered realistically what they were doing. And the end was a great Eddie Graham type finish with twists and turns and a little angle. And in the middle was a lot of matches where they did moves to each other back and forth over and over and over again. To me.